Thanks for joining me once again. I'm sorry my voice is a little hoarse, thanks to what I did over the weekend. I am back home. I just got home a couple hours ago, and I'm still fueled by the fires of what happened last weekend. Metal Threat Fest was fucking awesome. So I just want to do a video showing you some clips and pictures that I took from all the band's sets, and just kind of give you a recap on it. I don't know. I guess I wouldn't say that I would usually watch a lot of other YouTubers doing this, but for the stacked fucking lineup on this festival, I'm surprised how small a festival it is, honestly. The venue was Reggie's Rock Joint in Chicago, and it's like a two venue show. There's a smaller venue to the side with a capacity of 160 people, and the larger venue, the main stage, is I think of capacity 600 or 500 maximum. So it is a pretty small show. So I'm guessing there were maybe a maximum of like 600 or 700 tickets sold. So they were kind of a pricey ticket, but I don't mind. I want to know that the bands are getting paid well for traveling from all over. Another thing that's remarkable about Metal Threat Fest is that bands from all corners of the world are converging on Chicago. But this is actually kind of a perfect convergence of several tours kind of landing upon Chicago. I don't know if those tours were like centered around this fest, like as a result of this show or whatnot. Like for instance, Ruins of Beverast, I know we're doing like 4, maybe 5 dates or so in the States with the Spirit. Oh, by the way, in the background, listening to Convulse, World Without God, and I'll tell you why in a few minutes. But so there were several tours that were going around of these bands, so it's not like you had to be at Metal Threat Fest to see any of this stuff. So like a lot of these tours are just kind of winding all over the country over the course of the last month or so. So 2-day festival, 2 stages. I only bought tickets for the main stage for both days. So I missed out on, we'll get to it later, but I missed out on some of the smaller stage bands. I'll definitely put a image and whatnot in the beginning of the video so you can see what the lineup was like or whatnot. But the only bands that would have been of interest to me on the smaller stage would have been Druid Lord. I've been enjoying their new album quite a bit. And Pissgrave, because I don't know, there was like about a ton of hype about those guys, but I was just kind of like, oh, I'll wait and check it out, their new album out later or whatnot. I wasn't super won over by their first record. Anyways, we'll get to that in a bit. But I'm just going to go through the bands chronologically and tell you a little bit about my thoughts on their sets, show you a little clip and picture and whatnot, and just kind of give you a recap of the fun I had over the weekend. We got into Chicago around 4. The hotel that we stayed in was really close to the venue, so that was super cool. We could walk there. But we picked a restaurant right next to the venue because we were super hungry for the 4-hour drive or so-ish from where I live. And the restaurant took fucking forever to serve us food, so I wound up missing out on Cruciamentum, which was one of the bands that I really wanted to see. That was kind of a bucket list kind of band for me to see. If the food would have been awesome, I would have been a lot more forgiving, I guess, of the circumstances, but whatever. I guess it was a little weird that Cruciamentum was first on the first day. I guess I feel like they're kind of a bigger band and deserve to be maybe a little bit higher up, but whatever, I missed it. There were a ton of other sets that I did catch. So we got there right after Cruciamentum. Everybody was like, oh, that was amazing, and I fucking missed it. So anyways, the next band was Necrovation from Sweden. who I'm kind of familiar with. I've had their first 7-inch for years and years and years and loved it. And then I picked up their more recent album. I think they have 2 full lengths. I picked up their most recent album maybe about a year ago now. And I do really like it. So I don't know. I'm not a super fan or anything, but I was curious enough to check them out. And the cool thing, I guess I should say, about the setup of the whole fest is that you're never going to have any overlapping sets. If you bought a ticket for both stages, you go to one show, you see one band, and then 5 minutes later, you walk over to the other and you see the next set. So that is killer. I think that's a great way to set things up, if possible. The way this whole fest, from a fan's perspective, was set up, as far as I'm concerned, is a great example for the way that other fests should conduct their business and whatnot. I have not heard anything bad about Metal Threat's whatever behind the scenes. I'm sure they are great to the artists, so I'm really happy to support Metal Threat and hope that these fests keep on happening, because Paul brings in some really awesome stuff. So after that, Necrovation got up on stage, and it was weird. They had their little intro. They started playing. It was brutal, and then a guitar cut out or something, and everything just fell silent. So that was kind of a rough start for a minute, and actually they were having sound problems before that all went down. It was just kind of weird. So it kind of had a rough start, but I'll forgive that most times. But so after the first song, the singer, he's like, "Praise us." I'm gonna mark this up to language barrier, but I got a kick out of the stage banter, I guess, if you want to call it that or whatnot. But it was kind of weird. I honestly I would have preferred he just maybe stayed silent or whatnot. But he said, "Praise us." So the crowd was like, "Yeah, great." I mean, they were playing great. The crowd was into it. It's fine, but it's just a weird thing to say, "Praise us." But then, so after the next song, they were brutal, fast, sound was great, everything was fine. But after the next song, he says, "Chicago, are you having a good time?" And we're all like, "Yeah." And he says, "Why?" I don't know. Maybe this is a clever way to conduct your show over in Sweden, but whatever. So anyway, nobody responds. It's kind of an awkward silence, so me being kind of a shouty comedian or whatever, I yell out, "Well, I thought it was actually going to be a lot hotter than it was, and it turned out to be kind of cool, so I'm having a good time." And he goes, "Well, I guess that's kind of more of an American problem than over in Sweden. Anyways," fucking weird. Anyways, their set was good. I'll give them that. They don't blow me away. I just think they're just good enough. I prefer, I guess I would say, their albums to their live show. Oh, forgot to mention, I also missed Infernal Conjuration, who were from Mexico and touring with Mortuary. So I missed that band too. But Mortuary was awesome. I got their Blackened Images album a couple of weeks ago, and I wish I had more time to listen to it than I did, but I enjoyed it. It's killer. It's a really, really old school, kind of late thrash, early death metal kind of crossover record, and it's got an really nice South American sound to it. It is really, really good, and I guess it wasn't until I saw them live that I realized how much they are influenced by early Slayer. So it's like early Slayer gone death metal from South America. So, I mean, it's fucking killer. But not only that, they performed super, super awesome. Their drummer was a fucking beast. Tell you what, there was no drummer who wasn't a fucking beast at this show. This was a super great showcase of super talented drummers. And one thing a lot of people were saying, and I guess it's worth noting, is that every band played on, not a house kit, but the Chasm's kit. They changed out a couple of cymbals and whatnot and made it great, but every drummer sounded fucking awesome. And also, just to that point, I guess, every band sounded like they sound on their records. I'm not sure how they achieve a mix like that other than, you know, bringing the same pedals and guitars and whatnot, but I really felt like, for example, Dead Congregation, their set sounded exactly like their records, and that was fucking awesome. Anyways, Mortuary played the entire Blackened Images album, which is actually kind of a short record, so like that's like probably 36 minutes long or so. And then they played one song from their second record, which I didn't even know they had another full length out. It came out 90, I'm not gonna guess, I don't know. But then they played a Slayer cover, which was awesome, and then they were done. So then after that was Convulse. All right, and that's who we're listening to right now. And Convulse's World Without God, that's what they played for the whole set. I'm getting to be a really big fan of these like album sets. I think that is a fucking awesome thing to do, if the band is, you know, like super into doing it. And in Convulse's case, it's a pretty good idea because they're I've got another one of their albums and it's just not very good, so it is super worth revisiting this record in its entirety. And they, on this album, as far as I know, they were a 4-piece, and they were a 3-piece on stage, but they didn't miss a beat. You wouldn't have known necessarily. The only time, I guess you would say, that felt like there was an absence of a guitar player, and this was the case with maybe one or the Chasm, for example. We'll get to that. Was when the guitar player would go in for a solo, and the only thing backing up the entire sound was the bass player. So you just have like bass going with soloing going on, and it sounds a little bit like diminished in a way. But it was fine. They absolutely crushed me away. There were some moments where I was just standing there just going, holy shit, this is great. I really needed a festival like this to, I don't know, just kind of clear out the head. I've just been kind of having some stressful weeks or whatnot, nothing huge or anything, but it's just so great when you get kind of like, you know, dragged down by work and your coworkers are all great people, but at the end of the day, when you go home, you're still, maybe I'm just only speaking for myself, you still are that weirdo that feels like you're not in your own skin, or, you know, we're metalheads, we're the weirdos of the world, I think, and like sometimes I just kind of get kind of bogged down by all the fucking grown-up stuff and having to do the fucking normie rigmarole and shit. So it's just fun to fucking go somewhere and just listen to a bunch of loud, crazy blast beats and just have a great fucking time, drink some beers, see your friends, you know. And it isn't often that I'm reminded of how rejuvenating that of an experience that is. So that really sums up the whole weekend. It was killer to see a lot of my friends that I hadn't seen in a long time. Ben, who's moving out to Colorado next week, really gonna miss that guy. Matthias, etc. Killer to see all you guys. And I met a couple of new people, had some people that were familiar with me through my channel and whatnot. But anyways, about the Metal Threat Fest, Convulse leveled, as far as I'm concerned, myself and the whole venue. That was just a fucking devastating set, and it was so good. I am not familiar enough with this record to, know every note or every song or whatnot. So it was super fun to become more familiar with Convulse by way of an amazing set. Chasm closed out the first night. The Chasm are a band who moved from Mexico to Chicago back in the early 90s. They've got about 6 or maybe 8 albums under their belt. I've got, I think, 2 of the kind of early albums, mid-era albums maybe or not, whatnot. And I think I've seen them live twice or so. But I didn't really become I'm not a huge fan, but I didn't become a fan of the Chasm until I picked up their Far Seeing the Paranormal Abysm album, which is fucking amazing. And I love the Chasm only for that record. But I really wanted, I saw them live twice, like many years ago. Then I got that album and I was like, holy shit, they got a lot better. So I was stoked to see them live again Saturday night. But here's the thing, I didn't know this. Apparently if you follow them on Facebook or whatnot, you might know, but I haven't really been on Facebook that much. Their guitar player quit on them, their second guitar player quit on them just a couple of days ago, actually. So they were down a guitar player, and the Chasm are a band that have just absolute riff wizardry going on. So to have that diminished by 50%, it was quite a strike to the knees, I gotta say. But they performed absolutely devastating set as much as they could, but it became more and more apparent, I think, that something was missing and they weren't really living up to what they wanted it to be. And this was their final Chicago show. So that's a big deal, to have your guitar player quit on you 3 days before your final show in your hometown that you've called home for 20 plus, probably 25 years or so. So I don't know the circumstances behind it. It's unfortunate, but they did the best they could despite what was going down. And that was the end of the night one. That was super good. So then the next day I made sure that we were on time because I wanted to see Dispirit from San Francisco. I wasn't super familiar with Dispirit. I remember checking out their rehearsal at O'Brien's. I don't know. I can't remember what it was called because Dispirit only releases cassettes. And I try not to buy cassettes at all. So I listened to them on Bandcamp. I've downloaded a couple of their demos here and there. But the only thing I've heard was their rehearsal at whatever. So they've done 2 releases since then. And since I really liked that demo, I was like, I really need to catch up with them and find out what they've been up to. So their live set was really amazing. They played 2 songs, both probably reaching maybe about 25 to 30 minutes long. And the most impressive thing about their set was that drummer was a goddamn beast. He blasted relentlessly, furiously, chops 10 to 12 inches off the fucking snare. Unbelievable. Not to get too technical about it, but man, they play this kind of dizzying, mesmerizing, kind of repetitive, sort of super heady black metal that's real, just transcendental, They come from the same kind of ilk as like Wolves in the Throne Room. In fact, the lead guy, is it John Gossard? He's also in a band called Asunder, which I'm not really a huge fan of, but he was in Weakling, if that tells you anything. So, I mean, the purveyors of American transcendental black metal are Weakling, in my opinion. So, a little bit of that flavor kind of is what Dispirit is all about, if you're not familiar. So, that was really, really awesome to see. I never thought I would see Dispirit live, but they're touring with Ruins of Beverast for a couple of shows, and so that was really fun. And correction, I missed out on Ecto Void. I'm not familiar at all with Ecto Void, but I believe Justin Stubbs was praising them a couple of videos ago, and I was kind of curious to check it out, but I just didn't line up for us to be able to get there on time that day. But Ares Kingdom were next, and they played their new album in its entirety. I kind of feel like Ares Kingdom saturate a lot of Midwest shows, so I've seen them live like 3 or 4 times. So I opted for a majority of their set to hang out with my buddies outside, who I don't get to see as often as I do Ares Kingdom, honestly. But I saw maybe 4 songs by them, and it was really, really awesome. I guess the only thought that struck me while I was watching them was how influenced they are by Celtic Frost, which is probably a good thing for you, maybe not so good of a thing for me. But they always perform really well. I'm super impressed by that bass player. He's just a thundering fucking mastodon of a man, just slapping the shit out of that bass. They're a really fun 3-piece to watch perform. So then the bummer was that Embrace of Thorns couldn't get into the United States for work visas. So I think they were denied once they fucking landed. Sucks, but I'm not super familiar with that band whatsoever. I've got a split that they did with... there's no way I'm going to remember what the band they did a split with. I'll put it in the video or something anyways. I'm not familiar whatsoever though. But so instead of them playing Necrovation from the first night, played the exact same set they did the second night. So, yeah. I watched a couple of songs, honestly, but I wound up hanging out with my buddies a little bit more. And then I managed to sneak over to the other side and see Pissgrave. And I think everybody was really hyped to check out Pissgrave live. And I went into it with an open mind, and I felt like their set at first kind of reminded me of just like the early Revenge material. They do this thing, and I don't know if it's this way on their albums or not, but they do this thing where the vocals are pitch shifted both low and high, so it has this kind of like high-pitched hissing sort of teethy quality to it, while there's this guttural like 6-octave lower kind of gurgling kind of thing. It's cool. I don't know if I could tolerate it for a whole album or whatnot, but I am super amped to listen to their new album after enjoying their set. So like at first I was like, alright, you know, Revenge, already I kind of did this, but they blast a little bit more. But more and more and more I appreciated the diversity that they actually bring to their style. And I was won over by maybe the fourth or fifth song. They were fucking great. I really like it. I think more than just like absolute unrelenting blasting brutality that I think you would assume that they are based on kind of all the hype and the album covers and all that whatnot. And the revenge comparison may not be as fair. I think I heard some kind of like hardcore riffs, some kind of like beatdown hardcore kind of stuff, which is something that I never even listened to. So that's not a very educated opinion, but I just felt like these are some kind of like tough guy fucking mosh riffs here and there, which is okay in very small doses here and there. But there was a lot more, I guess, like that kind of Beverast sort of influence, or like that South American kind of kind of stuff. But it was fun. Not all their songs sounded the same, like I would have assumed. So yeah, I was pretty impressed. So Pissgrave fucking completely blew me away. Then it was time for the Ruins of Beverast. Now, I have been a fan of the Ruins of Beverast since the first album came out in 2003, maybe or so. Unlock the Shrine. So fucking amazing. And I had even been a fan of Naglfar, his previous band. I didn't know any of their albums at that point, but yeah, Ruins of Beverast is a band that I buy every album when it comes out because it's goddamn amazing. So their set was utterly mesmerizing. I could give you 6,000 adjectives to tell you how great it was, but man, it's kind of hard. I'm still reeling from how it just fucking blew my mind into 1,000 pieces and put them all back together again. The thing that I love, I think, so much about Ruins of Beverast, despite like, aside from all the obvious things, is there's such a respect made for patience and dynamic and silence and serene sort of moments where you're just really enjoying the clean tones of his guitars and synthesizers and samples that just give such an ethereal, infinite depth to his or their music, however you want to put it, which lends so much then heaviness to the chunky parts and the death metal parts and the black metal parts. Also, I was super impressed by how dynamic of a vocalist Alexander von Meilenwald is, from the fucking raspy, nasty vocals to the just low, guttural, just perfect, almost like Dan Svanja, guttural, but also just perfect tone kind of vocals. And then clean vocals he did sometimes himself, sometimes accompanied by both guitar players singing in kind of like a choral choir kind of effect. Super great performers. I was even blown away by how just relentless the drummer was. His chops were coming off the fucking snare 12 inches at least. It was just insane. He was beating the shit out of that kit, and everything sounded so just utterly perfect. If you get a chance to see Ruins of Beverast, you must see them live. It was amazing. Highlight of the fest for me, for sure. Convulse and Ruins of Beverast, definitely. And Pissgrave, if I'm being honest, were highlights of the fest. So then, Dead Congregation came on. They came all the way from Greece. Before, I've been getting into all this death metal phase and whatnot. Before that, they were one of the death metal bands that were current that I was a really big fan of. Graves of the Archangels was so fucking amazing. I don't ever pick up their early material. I've got a copy of it, but I never listened to it because Graves was one of the more classic death metal releases of the last 10 years, I would say. And the follow-up to that, Promulgation of the Fall, no less devastating. It was so damn good. Like, my love for this band is always replenished when sometimes I get so stressed out by something, work, whatnot, that I need to listen to the last song, I think, on the Graves of the Archangels album. It's called Teeth into Red. And I think most people who have, spent a lot of time with that album know that Teeth into Red is like the centerpiece of that record. It is, I think, the last song on the album, and it feels like a fucking religious experience. It feels like a meditation. It does that for me. I don't know anything about meditation. I've never done anything like that. And not that I'm against it or anything, but I think when my head gets so tense and just turns into a fucking rock, I can listen to that song really, really loud, and I am a new man afterwards. It is just a masterpiece of a song. So, like, that experience and being able to rely upon that band and that song to be able to work through a lot of things is brings a lot of love for me to that band. So seeing them on stage was something I've wanted to do for a really long time. They don't play the States nearly enough, and from what I've heard and some of my commenters, they don't play Grease very often. They actually don't play very much. So it was a super big honor to be able to see them live. Their sound was, perfect to the albums, sounded exactly like their albums do, and they were just utterly fucking crushing. They just laid fucking waste to that place, man. It was, the fucking mosh pit was utter violence. It was amazing. I hope they enjoyed it enough that they come back to the States a little more often. I didn't, honestly, by that time I was pretty tired. I was tuckered out from being pummeled in the chest by the mids from those fucking kick drums all day long. So I actually sat down for a little bit and I didn't pay attention to their entire set. But toward the end of their set, I stood up, watched a couple more songs. They closed it out with Teeth into Red, and it was just what I fucking needed. So that was just the perfect ending to that fest. And it will bring me to something that you're probably wondering based on my previous video. Got into some money problems for some stupid shit. It's not a big deal. And I was going to hawk some records, but I think I found a way to recoup what I need to do, and I'm going to sell some records, but I'm going to hold off on the Mayhem, I think, for now. And if I do sell it, I'm not against selling it, honestly. I do want to get rid of it, but I think I'm going to throw it on eBay so that I get whatever the fair price is rather than just trying to get rid of it. I was quoting that price in my last video because I wanted to get rid of it and get paid for it immediately. But I think I got my butt covered right now, so I should be all right. But I will, in maybe my next video after this one, have some records, CDs listed on Discogs for sale, and I'll give you a link to it and whatnot. But somebody commented on my video too, hey, what's your Discogs username? It's Beverast. If you watch the beginning of all my videos, there's a little splash screen that has all my usernames on Bandcamp, Instagram, Facebook, and I think that's it. So yeah, Beverast on Discogs. And so, since I told you guys I was going to sell a Mayhem LP, and I'm taking that back for what it's worth, I'm gonna do a giveaway. I just can't figure out how to do a giveaway or like how I want to do it. I always try and do kind of things like this different from the way everybody else does it. So I'm gonna have to try and come up with something to make it fun, different, and unique, and wholly me. So I guess be on the lookout for a while. It's just for the fuck of it, whatever. I've got some doubles and some stuff just sitting around, and it's been a while since I did a giveaway, and I just kind of want to thank you guys for sticking with me, supporting me, watching my videos, and staying true to the metal. I had a really good time meeting people who watch my channel and stuff, and it's always going to be weird to me that like I'm such a metal fan of a lot of musicians who watch my channel, and man, it's fucked up, man. It's not right, but whatever. I appreciate it so much. I appreciate the metal that is being brought into the world by people, regardless of how many people listen to me talk or whatever. But so that's it. Metal Threat Fest 2019 in the bag. Back to work tomorrow, and we'll see you next time. If there's a Metal Threat Fest in the future, you better turn out.